Pirates of Nassau is a dice placement game in the same sort of genre as games like Kingsburg or even things like Castles of Burgundy, really. We're rolling dice and then we're choosing to place the dice on certain cards in order to gain resources, and then we're using those resources to upgrade our pirate ships, which we then use to battle with the Royal Navy. And the game continues until eventually we assess who's managed to store the most money and who's managed to build up the most notoriety, and who has the best ship and who has the best crew on their ship. So there's a bunch of different criteria by which we're judged, but it's essentially a standard Euro game design in the worker placement, dice placement sort of subgenre of that worker placement category. It's by a first-time publisher, Gung Ho Games, and it came out in 2012. It's not without its problems component-wise, although generally this is a really nice production, and I think it's been overlooked rather a lot, which is why I've chosen to cover it in a video review today. I'll talk through a little bit about how the game plays, and then tell you what I think of the game. I mentioned issues with component quality, and I think let's get this out of the way now. We'll run through the components because some of them are really extremely good. Most notably, we've got this ship design where we start off with a nice small ship like this, and then throughout the game we have the opportunity to upgrade our ship, so we can increase it in size, and it gets bigger and bigger, giving us more spaces to hold cargo and also more spaces to upgrade our sails, upgrade our guns, increase our crew members, all that sort of thing. So this is a lovely design, and each player will have one of these. We've got nice thick tokens, and these ones specifically are for looting ports, or blowing up ports. We've got a lot of cubes and cylinders and tiles. They're all of a good quality, no problems there. There's a hell of a lot of cards in here, so we've got a lot of these different ship cards. A whole different section at the top there for Royal Navy ship cards. These are nice glossy, fairly thick cards, although it's odd that they've had to be punched out, so you get these little, I don't know if you can see here, these little edges on them, which you wouldn't normally get with a set of cards, but they're not bad quality. And then we have cards for different pirates, which each player has their own in their own player colour, so they each essentially take on a role. Along with that, and these are really lovely components, we've got these nice little wooden pirate ships in each colour, and then a bunch of dice in each colour as well, so each player has his own colour dice. And that far, it's all great. The rule book's great as well. Got a nice thick rule book here. No problems there, nice examples, nicely illustrated, good quality stuff. And then we have the treasure chests, which is this. Now this is a little more than thick paper, and it's going to tear unless you're very careful with it. It's not great, and that's a shame, really. So I mean, I've replaced mine with these sort of things, just plastic containers that I get from a hobby shop. So I've got one of those in each player colour. That's my alternative for the treasure chest. But it's a shame to have to pimp the game yourself to make up for inadequacies in the component quality. This is how the treasure chests come. So they're on a sheet of paper like this. And we also have these hostages, which again are little bits of very thin card that you sort of fold out to sort of put them together. I mean, the artistry is not bad on there, but personally I prefer to use little meeples. Admittedly, these are cowboy meeples, but they're the only ones I could come across. These are from Oregon, and I tend to use these as my hostages. So it's not difficult to address these issues as a player, but it's a shame when the rest of the production is so good. And I really don't want that to put people off the game. So let's talk through how the game actually works. Well, it's a game for 3 to 5 players, although there is a variant for 2 players, which is listed on Board Game Geek. And I don't really know why this wasn't included in the rules, because again, I think that may have limited the possible market for this game, in that it looks from the box like it can't be played 2-player, but it works absolutely fine 2-player with the variant. We have a board which is full of different ships. These are all merchant ships and ports, and then at the top there's a bunch of different Royal Navy ships that we're going to have to face at the end of the round. Around the edge of the board is a track which is the notoriety track, and that's essentially a turn order track. In some parts of the game you want to be the most notorious, because that allows you to have first choice of upgrades for your ship. So we've got a cabin boy, a press gang, pilot reroll, a carpenter, and we've got various upgrades to sails. So it's quite good to be the most notorious when you get back to Nassau and you can start buying upgrades. But it's not so good to be the most notorious when you come up against the Royal Navy, because the least notorious pirates will sneak through first and take on the weaker vessels, or maybe won't even have to take on a vessel at all, leaving the most notorious pirate to fight the strongest Royal Navy ships. The game essentially works, as I say, as a dice placement game. So the player will roll his dice. He's got a 6, a 5 and a 2. So he can now choose where he would like to position himself using one of those dice. So he might choose to take the 6, in which case he's going to place his ship up here on the 6 space. Now, what that means is he's now facing the Weasel merchant ship. And the Weasel merchant ship will give him 2 of this black type of cargo. I can't remember what black represents. It's going to be gunpowder or something like that, I suspect, if I look in the rulebook. We then have basically the statistics of the ship that he's got to beat if he's going to actually take the cargo from this merchant. So this ship has 1 for sails and 2 for guns. Well, my ship starts with 1 for sails and 1 for guns. So I need to increase my my guns, and I'll do that by playing a card from my hand of pirate cards. So here they are. So this one's no good because it doesn't increase my guns, it only increases my sails. This one will increase both, but it's a little bit of overkill perhaps. That one's even more so. This one will increase it by 1. So let's say I go with this. This now increases my guns and sails to 3, 3. I can beat the Weasel, I get the cargo from it, but this card is now discarded and I can't use it again for the rest of this turn. So that goes out of play. I gain my 2 little bits of cargo, which are these here, and I place them into the slots on my ship, which initially would be much smaller than it's currently looking. Each player does similar things, but they may take on a ship that gives them money, or they may take on a ship that gives them a hostage, which is in my version of the game is where I use those meeples. These all go in the cargo hold, money, hostages, and you can run out of space in that cargo hold very quickly. You might also choose to go to a port, in which case you don't have to fight, you can just take one of the resources, but you could choose to completely loot the port, in which case you get money, and you also destroy that port so nobody else can visit it for the rest of the game. You can take a hostage to a port, so if you have a hostage, you can drop it off at the port and you'll get money for it, so you can sell off that hostage. And that is also going to increase your notoriety on the notoriety track, which changes the player order. So there's a lot of, Euro staple sort of rules and mechanics in here that will be very familiar from other games, and it all runs very, very smoothly. It's quite a long game with 5 players. It's much more manageable at sort of 3 or 4 players, and a 2-player version, as I say, works absolutely fine. There's been some tweaks to the scoring, which have been, there's a variant sort of scoring system which the designers put up on Board Game Geek, because the original scoring system seemed to be resulting in a lot of ties between different players. But essentially now players are looking to have the most money, to be the most notorious, to have the best ship, and to have the best crew. But money will give you more points than notoriety, and notoriety will give you more points than having a good ship or having a good crew. So they're kind of scaled, where in the past they were all given an equal sort of value, which resulted in a lot of draws. It's a really, it's a quality game. It's a solid Euro game. There's nothing very new in terms of the sort of mechanics. There's nothing particularly innovative. But there aren't that many pirate games, and certainly not that many Euro-style pirate games. And this is a good example of one. I should probably talk a little bit about what the sort of upgrades you might see to your ship. So we already mentioned, we've got crew, the pilot reroll. This is going to allow you to reroll your dice when you're moving. The cabin boy is just points. He's just going to give you points at the end of the game. Increases the value of your crew. This carpenter, he's going to allow you to take extra cargo. And you're going to buy these crew with, there's a sort of exchange chart up here. So to buy a crew member, you're going to need 2 brown cylinders and a black one, which is going to be, a mixture of rum and gunpowder, I think. We then have these different sails. These sort of sails can go on here. That increases the points at the end of the game. But this gives +1 sail, which is going to help you to outrun the navy and outrun the merchant ships. These ones are going to give you extra guns, but only against, I think that's against merchant ships. So, they've all got slightly different abilities, and your ships will get customized accordingly. I'll talk through a little bit about what I think about the game. Pirates of Nassau is a solid Euro game full of really familiar Euro mechanics. There's nothing particularly unique in this game. The one thing that really keeps it in my collection is I love the artwork, I love the majority of the components, and I like the pirate theme. And I haven't played a pirate game that I've enjoyed yet, apart from Pirates of Nassau. I'm not a big thematic gamer. I don't enjoy those sort of really Ameritrash sort of thematic games. I didn't enjoy Pirates Cove or Jamaica, and I know there are people who argue that they're Euro games, but I didn't enjoy those games, where I do enjoy Pirates of Nassau. Now, I don't get a great feeling of conflict in this game. I don't get the sense of being a pirate going around destroying stuff and fighting with the other pirates and the other players. And maybe that is a flaw in the game. If you're looking for a pirate game, maybe that's what you're looking for. But I quite enjoy being a sort of ship builder, improving my lot, treating it almost like an economic game. Sometimes I feel like a pirate's accountant when I'm playing this game. But I enjoy that. The theme is there enough for me, and the rest of the mechanics in it work well. There are other games in the genre, in the dice building genre, that I really like. I enjoy Trois, or Troyes, as people like to call it. I think this is a fantastic game. And I've also enjoyed games like Kingsburg and Castles of Burgundy and Alien Frontiers, but they don't get to stay in my collection. I've traded those games away, or not bought them in the first place after playing them. Whereas Pirates of Nassau, I'm hanging on to. And it's because of this pirate theme, the beautiful artwork, and the fact that it just feels like a bit of a labour of love for a sort of first-time publisher and new game designers. And I like that. I like that feeling that I'm, supporting something new, something which, I would love to see this get a wider distribution, and I'd love to see this company go on to do bigger and better things. It's a good game, a solid Euro. If you like the idea of having a pirate-based Euro game, this is the only one to get, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. Pirates of Nassau.